Hi, this is Steve, and in this video I'm going to go over the advanced rotator settings. And before I get going, I'm going to assume that you've watched the link tracking tutorial as well as the basic rotator tutorial, because there's information there that I'm not going to cover much in this advanced rotators tutorial. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at our high priority rotator that we saw in the last video. We can see here that my rotator group is solo ads. Now, if you want to create your own rotator group, just click on this help icon right here. You can easily create it, and you can select it from the group here. Now, the next thing is a rotator name. Again, you can have anything there that you want. For my rotator link, I'm using the standard Magick rotator domain with my username and my link tracking ID. Now, I'm going to go over the rotator modes in more detail in this video. The fulfillment rotator, it takes all incoming clicks and sends it to that first URL in your list, and also all repeat clicks. So that first URL gets all the clicks. Once it's been fulfilled, then the rotator moves on to the second URL, does the same thing, then on to the third URL. So very straightforward how the fulfillment rotator works. Now, the spillover rotator, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this in this video. For the moment, I'm just going to talk about the on-finish features. But to review what the spillover rotator does, how it works, when a click comes in, a unique click, it goes to the first URL in the rotator, just like the fulfillment rotator does. But when a repeat click comes in, it does not go back to that first URL. It goes to the second URL if it has not yet received that repeat click. If it has, it goes to the third URL. It goes to the fourth URL. It just spills down the list, so it can take that repeat click and give it as a unique click to somebody else in your list. And so what that does is that maximizes the value of your repeat clicks. You can treat those as unique clicks to other people in your list. So that's how the spillover rotator works. Now, the question comes up is, what happens if a repeat click comes in and everybody in the list has already received that repeat click? Well, that's where this on-finish setting comes in. When the rotator gets a repeat click, you have a choice of what to do. You can send it to the backup URL, which is this URL right here. You can put any URL here that you want if you haven't specified it already, but you can have that repeat click go to the backup URL. You can have it go to the very last URL in your list of URLs, and there's a valid reason for doing that I'm going to get to a little bit later in the video. But just think of it this way. If the repeat comes down and it falls all the way at the bottom, it just stays at the bottom. And that's what the last URL selection does for you. And then the third option is you can send that repeat click right back to the top of the rotator and start the process all over again. So it just keeps going around and round and round and round if somebody is really clicking on the link that often. So that's how the spillover rotator works. Now, the next option is the random rotator. And the way this rotator works is when a click comes in, it just gets randomly sent to any URL in the rotator. Now, the next question is, what happens when a repeat click comes in with the random rotator? Well, you have two choices here. You can have the repeat click go back to the same URL that it was originally given to, or you can have it go to another random URL. So it's completely random when the clicks come in, and it's completely random when the repeat clicks come in. So again, there's no right or wrong setting here. It really depends upon what you're trying to accomplish. But again, the random rotator is not used very often. So all I can say is if you need this rotator, you'll know which setting that you need, whether the same URL or the random URL. Now, the sequential rotator has some options as well. In this case, with a sequential rotator, when a unique click comes in, it goes to the first URL in the list. When the second click comes in, it goes to the second URL. The third goes to the third URL, and right down the list. And then when it hits the bottom, it starts over at the top again. Now, when a repeat click comes in the sequential rotator, you have two choices as well. You can send that repeat click to the same URL that you did originally, or you can send it to the next URL in the list, just as though it were a unique click. It just goes right on to the next URL in the list and wraps around to the top, just like any other click. So depending upon exactly how you're using your sequential rotator, you can decide which setting makes more sense for you. Cloak rotator. Now, I'm not going to go over cloaking in this video because I covered it quite thoroughly in the link tracking videos, and in those videos I gave demos of exactly how cloaking works and why you would want to use it. So I'm going to encourage you, if you don't know what cloaking is, to go watch those videos. Very powerful setting that you're going to want to become familiar with. Now let's talk about the backup URL. We've seen two uses for this so far. The first is if a click comes in and it doesn't match any of the URLs in the rotator, then it's going to be sent to the backup URL for processing. The second use we saw a moment ago in the spillover rotator, if a repeat click comes in and it's gone to all of the URLs in the list, you have the choice of sending it to the backup URL, and again, it would come to the URL that you specify here. So there's one more use for the backup URL. We're going to get to that in the advanced settings. So why don't we go ahead to the advanced settings now and start looking at those. Okay, let me scroll up here. First two items are our customizable content, our Magick bars and our pop-ups. I covered these thoroughly in the link tracking videos. The one thing I want to point out here is that the rotator can have Magick bars and pop-ups, and so can the URLs within the rotators. Now, if the URLs have a setting and the rotator has a setting, then the URL setting will be used. It takes precedence over the rotator. So just be aware of that if you're using pop-ups and Magick bars within your rotator and your URLs. Geo-targeting I've covered before, but it's so critical to developing your rotators that I want to cover it again. What geo-targeting allows you to do is as clicks come in, you can determine which countries those clicks are coming from, and you can decide whether to send those clicks to your URLs or to send them to your backup URL. And the way you do that is very simple. So let's assume that you only want to send T1 clicks to your URLs. Then you would select only the countries targeted below, and you would click on the country list. Here you can see the Tier 1 countries listed. We choose Australia, Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom, and the United States. Now we have all the T1 countries listed. With this setup, any clicks that come in from the T1 countries will go to your URLs. Any other clicks will go to your backup URL. That's the third way that the backup URL is used. Now you can also set it up so that you exclude countries if that's an easier approach for you for what you're trying to accomplish. It works exactly the same way. Magick makes it very easy to filter out mobile clicks as well. You have two settings here. You have a mobile URL and you have the iOS URL. Now iOS is any Apple devices, so if you have this URL set, anytime a click from an Apple device comes in, it's going to be sent to this URL. If this URL is not set, it's going to be treated as a regular mobile click, and it will be sent along with all other mobile clicks to this URL if this URL is set. Now, if neither of these is set, the click is going to be just handled like any other click, and it's going to be processed normally. Now, the question always comes up, what if it's a tablet? How does Magick handle that? Well, that's your choice how to handle that. You can go into your user profile and you can specify whether a tablet should be treated as a mobile device or as a desktop device. It's completely up to you. Now, the pixel code, this is where you would enter any retargeting pixels you have or any tracking pixels. You can add more than one pixel to this box. Just be careful when you paste your pixels in to make sure they're correct, because if there's any problem there, it could cause your rotator to malfunction. The only other thing that I want to point out about the pixel code is this will only fire if the click goes to one of the rotator's URLs. It will not fire if it goes to the backup URL or it goes to either of the mobile URLs. So that's very important to remember. Now, bad clicks, we covered this before, but this is very important if you're a solo ad seller, so I'm going to go over this again as well. There are 6 types of suspicious or bad clicks that Magick watches for and filters out of your clicks so that they don't make it to your customers. They're listed here, but I'm not going to go through the different types. You can actually read about them by clicking on this help icon right here. But what's important to know is that by default, we filter those clicks out of all the traffic that makes it to your customers, and that's probably the setting where you want to leave it. Now, let me describe to you how to change that setting in case you want to do so. Each of the 6 types of traffic have 3 settings. They have filter it out, which just filters it out, and it logs the clicks so that you can go back and look at these clicks just to examine what exactly is going on with the traffic that you are receiving. You can block the traffic, and when you block the traffic, that literally tells Magick to not record it. It's just as though the click never came in. And then the final setting is do nothing. And do nothing means just don't filter it. Just let the click go right on through as though it's a regular old click, and that will be passed on to your customer. So you probably don't want to do that unless you really understand what each of these settings means. Now next we have new bots. This is where Magick will actually detect new bots in real time. You can read about it in the help icon right here, but basically you're going to want to leave this off unless you're getting a lot of fake clicks still going to your customers. Then you would want to turn this on, and this will filter out those fake clicks. You might lose some real clicks with this setting checked, but it will prevent your customers from getting bad clicks. So I would suggest you click on the help icon and read the document there to make an informed decision about how you would like to do that. The randomize setting and the cookie duration, I'm going to talk about this in just a minute. These are some of the advanced settings for the spillover rotator. So I'm going to move on for just a moment. Blank refers. This does exactly what it sounds like it does. It blanks the refer from the websites that you're sending your traffic to. Now, a couple things you need to know about this. First of all, this requires an extra redirect, so it will take a little bit more time to get to the URL, so you want to be aware of that. And the other thing is, I'm going to encourage you not to use this feature unless you absolutely know what it's for and why you're doing it. So if you want to learn more about it, just go ahead and click on the help icon and you can read about it. But again, this is a very advanced feature. I advise you stay away from it unless you know exactly what its purpose is. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to wrap this video up with a strategic way to set up your spillover rotator if you're selling solo ads. Now, if you're not selling solo ads, what I'm about to describe can be confusing, so don't worry if it is. But if you are selling solo ads, this is very important and you're probably going to want to pay attention. So before I get into exactly how I set up the rotator, I have to explain the last few settings and then I'll put them all into context for you. So we skipped over the randomize setting right here. So let me explain what this does. This is only used for the spillover rotator. And what this does is if you set a time here, let's say every 15 minutes, what it will do is every 15 minutes it will take all the URLs in your rotator and it will randomly shuffle them. Now, the reason that's important and might be valuable to you is recall that the spillover rotator starts from the top and fills the first order first, and then it goes to the second order, fills it, then goes to the third order. So if your traffic is coming in rather slowly, then some of your URLs may not get any traffic for a while. And that can be frustrating to your customers. It may not look like you've entered the order. There's lots of perception issues that could be going on there. If your traffic is coming in fast, your orders are getting fulfilled very quickly, your customers are not going to really care and notice. But if your traffic is coming in a little slower, if you randomize the URLs on a regular basis, then all of the URLs get a chance to be the first URL in the rotator and they will start getting traffic. Now, what you set this to really kind of depends upon exactly the speed of your traffic. I'm going to recommend that if you do have a slower source of traffic coming in, you just play with this number, watch your traffic, and see what your customers are getting, and just tweak it until you feel like your customers are getting a nice steady stream of traffic for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So that's what the randomize feature does. Now, let's take a look at this ignore last URL when randomizing checkbox. What this does is if you check this, when the URLs are randomized, all the URLs are jumbled and randomized except for the very last URL. Now, you might recall that this last URL concept came up before up here in the spillover rotator when the rotator got a repeat click that had come through to every URL in the rotator. The question was, where do you send that repeat click? If it's already gone to every URL in the rotator, do you send it to the backup URL, to the top of rotator, or to the last URL? Well, the last URL can be very powerful if you set it to a catch-all URL so that no matter what click you throw at it, it will accept it. And again, I'm going to explain this in a second. I just want you to understand the concept that the last URL, if you set it as a catch-all URL, can be very powerful. Now, let me go back down to this feature we were just looking at. If you randomize all the URLs, you don't want to randomize the catch-all URL because it has to be last in order. Now, here's why you would want that. Let's suppose you're geo-targeting your traffic like we've got right here. We have got selected T1 traffic here. So the only traffic that's going to go to your URLs is T1 traffic. Every other country is going to go to your backup URL. Now, with that understanding, if a T1 click comes in and you have no URLs in your rotator to handle that click, you probably don't want that click going to your backup URL, which is probably designed to handle non-T1 clicks or something else. So what you want to do is you want to have a catch-all URL that will take that T1 click, maybe route it off to another rotator, or handle that T1 click in some other way. So by having the last URL in place as a catch-all URL, it can take that T1 click that would otherwise be wasted and put it to good use. That's the use for the last URL. So if you had that set up, you would click ignore last URL when randomizing so that that final catch-all URL is not moved out of position. Now let's look at the cookie duration. The cookie duration is used if you want to reset all the URLs in your rotator. If you set this to, let's say, 30 days, then in 30 days' time, if a repeat click comes in, it will again look like a brand new unique click. So you can put this as 7 days, maybe 30 days. It really depends on what you're trying to do. But the cookie duration is kind of a way to just reset your rotator so that repeat visitors will see your offers again. Now, again, this defaults to 365 days. You're probably going to want to leave it that way. But if you have a different purpose where you know that you're going to want to reset this, just go ahead and set the duration here. So those are all the pieces. Now let me show you how you implement these in your spillover rotator. So let me click Save Changes. Okay, now let me go up to our high priority rotator and let me show the URLs. Now here, if you recall from the first video, we have Pooh Bear, Piglet, and Rabbit. Now let me show you how to implement the catch-all URL. We would first go up and we would add a URL. I'm going to give it the name catch-all, just so we remember it. The URL can go to some other rotator, for example, and I'm going to put www.theclickmagick.rotator URL / my username / T1 extra. That's going to be my T1 extra rotator, which is going to handle all my extra clicks. Now, I'm not going to give it max clicks or max daily clicks or any other setting, so it's going to be a wide open URL that will accept anything, so this particular URL will never expire, it will never be fulfilled. And this is going to be my catch-all URL. It goes right at the end. Let me show the URLs. So if all of these orders are fulfilled, the catch-all URL is going to accept any clicks from that point forward and forward them on to my T1 extra rotator. So when you would add a new URL, a new customer in this case, you could add them to the second to last position right before the catch-all URL. You could always add it to position number 1. I can add a URL. I can give it a name, a target. And position, if I wanted to add it at the front of the rotator, I could put position number 1. If I knew that the catch-all was at position 4, I could put 4 here. That would put this URL at position number 4, moving the catch-all to position number 5. So either way you want to do it, you can put it at the end or you can put it at the beginning. It depends upon how your traffic's flowing, what you want to do. Now let's go back and take a look at the show URLs. We have traffic coming in. Piglet, Pooh Bear, Rabbit are getting their traffic. You have randomized set with the last URL checkbox set. And Piglet, Pooh Bear, and Rabbit are going to be getting randomized so that incoming clicks are going to get distributed among those URLs. Catch-all is going to remain in place and not move position. Now, with all these settings in place, what you have is a spillover rotator that maximizes the value of your repeat clicks. All the URLs are getting even distribution, and you have a catch-all URL to handle any clicks that are left over. So this is a very powerful setup if you're selling solo ads. So in this video, I've gone over all the advanced features of ClickMagick's rotators, and I've also shown you how to configure the spillover rotator for maximum value. This is Steve with ClickMagick. If you have any questions, please contact our help desk. See you on the next video. Thanks.